Hey, how's it going? So I don't think I've ever had my 2021 Dodge Durango RT here on the channel yet. I've had this vehicle for going on 2 years now, and yeah, I absolutely love it. This is my fourth Durango that I've owned over the years. So the first vehicle I ever bought on my own was I bought a 2000 Dodge Durango SLT 4x4. That had a 4.7 liter V8. That was back in, 2003? No, 2004. 2004. And then I had a 2003 Dodge Durango SLT 4x4 that actually my dad still owns to this day with a 4.7 liter V8. And then I owned a 2018 Dodge Durango GT Blacktop Edition with a 3.6 liter Pentastar V6. And now I own this. This is my 2021 Dodge Durango RT Blacktop Edition with the 5.7 HEMI in it. So I have never really talked about the Durango that I own here on the channel too much. But again, this one's got 45,000 miles on it. I basically traded this in, or not, I traded this in. I actually got this to kind of replace my 2023 Chrysler 300C when I got rid of that. And I got rid of my 2018 Dodge Durango GT at the same time so I could get this as a daily driver. Since then, I obviously, moved some other vehicles around, and now I got that Dodge Charger Daytona Scat Pack as my daily driver, and I've given this to the wife. So we still have this, still absolutely love it. It's a Destroyer Gray. Again, 45,000 miles, 5.7 liter HEMI, 8 HP, 70 transmission, all-wheel drive. I have done a couple things to it. I always liked the Durangos with, they have a street appeal, but living in Michigan, I wanted to put a really aggressive tire on it, so I went with these Cooper Discovery all-terrains, and they look really good. They're very aggressive. They did really good this past winter, and I've always had like all-terrains on all my Durangos pretty much. I used to, on my body-on-frame Durangos that I had, the 2000 and 2003, I had, well, not the 2003. The 2003 actually still has, I think it's got Michelin's on it now, but I had the original Goodyear tires on it because the guy I bought it off of was the father of a girl I dated back, 10 years ago. And he was a Chrysler certified technician, and he kept the vehicle like immaculate. He never changed anything up on it. But all the other Durangos I've had, I put all-terrain tires on it. So I used to have BFG all-terrain KO2s on my 2000. And I did the same thing with my GT. But these ones I went with Coopers. They're a little cheaper, but you know what? They actually have a better rating. So far, so good. They drive super comfortable. They're not loud at all. But other than that, there really isn't a whole lot done with this thing. And the reason why I brought this out tonight is because I want to talk about the future of the Dodge Durango. So this is codenamed WD. This is the WD platform. And again, this is the third generation Dodge Durango. So this vehicle actually technically has been out since 2011. It came out late 2010 as a 2011 model. And here we are in 2020, going into the 2026 model year, and we still have the same generation of Durango. Now, recent documentation from suppliers have showed that the WD will actually continue on until 2029. So Dodge has extended the life of this vehicle. Originally, we heard, rumors going around that they were going to replace it with a vehicle called the Stealth. And I've actually had a couple of friends that actually seen it in the design studio over at CTC and said that, it wasn't going to have the Stealth name. It was still going to have Durango. But they said it looked really, really good. And they're kind of disappointed that it's being delayed. But the reason why it's being delayed is because this thing's still doing pretty good. And again, with how the economy is going and with the regulations and emissions and stuff, to keep the HEMI in it, they could do this. They could keep this around for a little bit more because honestly, it meets all the crash test standards until 2029. So they don't have to put a lot of development money into it, but it's going to be around for a while. So with that being said, it's going to be a very interesting future for the Durango. Why I say interesting is because this vehicle is getting old. It still looks good, but again, this refresh, I bought this because this was the refresh in 2021, and I actually liked it. But, it's starting to show its age, especially the back. They redid the back in 2014, and nothing's really changed with the back other than the rear spoiler. The rear spoiler was changed, and the rear bumper diffuser was changed a little bit. But other than that, it's pretty much the same thing it's been since 2011. So it's pretty sad. But honestly, again, drives great, still love it. But I'm honestly hoping that they do something other than just bring a straight up HEMI lineup for 2026. I think moving the lineup to an all HEMI lineup is kind of a thumbs down in my opinion, mainly because most of the volume customers for the Durango are V6 buyers. And again, by putting the 5.7 HEMI in the GT model, what they're doing is, they're lowering the price of the 5.7, but it still raises the price of about $4,000 over the GT V6. So it's given it a better value. But if you actually look and dig into the Durango GT for 2026, the V8 one, basically all they did was they stripped out options. So you get the 5.7 cheaper, but you get cloth seats. You don't have, like on the RT, it's standard leather. You get ventilated seats up front, heated seats, heated steering wheel. And basically you're eliminating all that stuff. You're eliminating all your creature comforts. But you do get the Sport Performance hood, and they still have kept the HEMI badging on the 2026. However, again, when you're alienating most of your customer base, it's going to be kind of tough to push people who don't want a V8 into buying one. The other thing is, if they would have just kept the RT the way it is, but stripped out the interior, so basically the RT, in my opinion, I think it would have been better if they would have just kept the RT, the 5.7 HEMI, kept the GT as the Pentastar V6, but make it so you don't get the standard leather. You can get cloth standard, and then upgrade to an RT premium or whatever to get what we had, and just keep the cost the way they had it, but you still keep the RT name. It would have made it more sense, because the 5.7's always been known as like the RT model, but they recently said, hey, the RT will get the 6.4 liter 392 HEMI. Now the problem with that is they missed a huge opportunity, and that could have been called the Scat Pack. That would have been cool. A lot of people have been dying for a Scat Pack Durango, and they could have just basically made it the RT with, RT 392 or whatever. It's going to be called the RT 392, but the problem is I think it would have been better as a Scat Pack model. It would have kind of gotten a lot more attention, in my opinion. But again, you're going to see an article tomorrow up on Mopar Insiders that the RT 392 is not going to be available in several states. I talked to Dodge about it. We've seen, several YouTubers post the same documents that I got from dealers. We get order guides from the dealers every month talking about how they can order things. And on those dealer guides, it basically said that the SRT HELLCAT, as well as the RT 392, will not be available in CARB states. I waited for a week and a half for Dodge to get back to me, because not even the communications department really could tell me anything, and they confirmed it. So all those states that are CARB states are going to be limited to a 5.7 liter GT. So again, you're looking for your customer base for a Pentastar V6 that's cheaper. You're missing out on some customers, especially now that Dodge needs all the help that they can get, because Chrysler has surpassed them in sales. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense with what they're doing with the 2026 Durango lineup. And the thing is if you go to dealer lots right now, anything built before August 13th, that even it's a 2026 model, there's 2026 Durango GT models on lots now, but they're a Pentastar V6. So anything built after August 13th is now a 5.7 HEMI GT. So when Dodge says, hey, the 2026 lineup is going to be all HEMI, that's not true, because we already have non-HEMI models on the lots. I think this move's just going to basically confuse people. I don't think it's a huge, important move for Dodge. Again, when you're alienating your volume customers, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I see a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want the HEMI, but I can guarantee you, I still hear, when I made this, like when I was at Roadkill Nights, went home immediately after and posted all this information, I got a ton of emails stating, why the hell are they getting rid of the Pentastar? A lot of people want it. I've been waiting for 2 weeks and 3 weeks now from Dodge Canada to get back with me if they're going to keep the same kind of lineup that the US is getting. I still haven't got confirmation on that. And we know that the Carney government has been pushing EVs. They're trying to ease up a little bit on them. But the way it might go is the GT might stay a Pentastar V6 in Canada. So the lineups don't really make a lot of sense. It sounds very confusing. Again, if you want a Hellcat, you better be in a non-carb state. If you want the 6.4, you better be in a non-carb state. So Dodge confirmed to me that they're working on trying to change that up a little bit with the carb states, but for right now, if you're going to order one and you're out in California, you are screwed. You're limited to a 5.7 liter GT. So any Dodge Chrysler is only good for 36,000 miles afterwards. Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's not true because this one's got 45,000 miles on it. And I've had Durangos. My GT that I had before this with the Pentastar, which was a 2018, I had almost 90,000 miles on that. My first-gen Durangos with the 4.7 V8, I had 212,000 miles on that one. And my 2003 has that my dad still has 190,000 miles on it. So, yeah. I don't know. I just, well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's the blacktop edition, so it's got blacked out wheels. It's got the black center caps, the blacked out bezels and stuff like that, black badging, and black exhaust tips. So, but anyways, it's just a very interesting way that Dodge is doing this. They're trying to make a cash grab, and I think this move with the Durango could backfire because there are just some people that want something cheap, and want a reliable vehicle, and the Pentastar does fine for them. And unfortunately, by switching it to a 5.7 HEMI, you're already raising the price by $4,000. So now, with the Hornet being suspended, Dodge's cheapest vehicle, which is the Durango GT 5.7, is more than $40,000. So Dodge does not have a vehicle under $40,000 in its lineup, unless you count the Pentastar V6 GT, which is still in dealers right now. But after they're done, nothing will be under $40,000. And to me, that's just a dumb move. Dodge needs to go back to being a mainstream brand. They can save the performance stuff for SRT and that, but on a business case, yeah, they're making the 5.7 cheaper, but they could have done that with the RT by saying, hey, we're giving you standard cloth seats. We're not going to give you, ventilated and heated seats up front. You're going to have to buy those as an option. They could have just done that and made a premium package and made it the equivalent of this. The other thing is, this is a 2021 model, and you can see I have fog lights. So a couple years ago, we started to notice that certain models weren't getting fog lights anymore. Obviously, the Hellcats don't because they get additional cooling because they have the additional little vent there. However, on the RT models in 2023, we started noticing halfway through the year, the fog lights started being missing. And I love fog lights. A lot of people, like having the additional light, especially when you corner or you drive down country roads and stuff. Unfortunately, the sad thing is after 2023 and 2024, they basically eliminated all the fog lights. Didn't matter what model you got. So it was that kind of cost cutting that's really kind of pissed off some owners with Dodge, because not only are you paying more for the vehicle, but you're getting less content. So again, this is an older vehicle. The tooling's paid off for this thing. You got to remember, this is a 2021. This is almost identical to the 2026s. Same front end, same hood, everything. All the tooling, all the stamping and stuff is paid for. This vehicle has been paid for a long time. So this is a cash cow vehicle for Dodge. So when you look at it, when you start decontenting stuff on vehicles that are already, you know, like a good deal for them, you know, a big cash cow for them, it just makes the company look stupid. And, you know, everybody's complained that, you know, Dodge has the Dodge Charger Daytona, and now they have the Dodge Charger 6-pack cars and there's no HEMI. There's a good reason why this car is staying around, because they can say, hey, we have a HEMI in the lineup with the Durango. And the Durango, this generation Durango, I'm not a huge fan of unibody SUVs, but I absolutely love the way this thing drives. I wouldn't have bought a second one if I didn't like it. It's very comfortable. You know, this one's got, you know, the third row. It's actually, this one, it's dirty right now because the wife is kind of messy, but I actually have the red leather. I got the captain's chairs in the back, third row. So it seats technically 6, but I mean, nothing's really changed. Nothing's changed since 2011 or 2021. You know, we got a new interior for 2021, but nothing has changed. So ultimately, I would like to see the Durango get redone. And I think, you know, for a while, Dodge was, if you go back on some of my articles on Allpar or even Mopar Insiders back in the day, we were told, I actually seen documentation back in 2017 that Dodge was they actually released some internal memos and stuff for the design department. And I actually have drawings. I'll have to show you guys on a live stream of what the Durango was going to look like in 2020, because they were going to actually upgrade this in 2020 to the WS platform. So if you know what the WS is, it's the Wagoneer. So it was going to basically become, instead of an E segment vehicle, it was going to become an F segment vehicle and be body on frame. And to me, I would love to see the Durango get a full size variant. They could build, you know, again, this is an E-Class vehicle. They could build something else to replace this, but the Durango name has a very long lifespan with being a body-on-frame vehicle. The reason why I think a body-on-frame vehicle would be great is they could make a cheaper Wagoneer with the Dodge, and the best thing is it's bigger, again, tougher because body-on-frame, but the big thing is police agencies absolutely like the Durango, other than some of the new issues with the cooling stuff that they've had on the recent ones, the oil coolers. So the problem is now law enforcement agencies are getting rid of cars. Now that the Charger doesn't have, you know, a pursuit model now, we've seen a lot of agencies switch over to these. You know, basically California Highway Patrol just bought like a few hundred of them just as like non-marked cop cars to patrol the highways and stuff. But we see tons of agencies around here. The city I'm in right now has, you know, Durangos. The city next to this one has Durangos. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of agencies that are buying Durangos. And with law enforcement, they're always looking for bigger vehicles because they like the Tahoe because it's body on frame. And with all the gear and crap they have to carry, it being even bigger than this makes a lot of sense. So, ultimately, I would love to see the Durango become body on frame and be a cheaper variant of the Wagoneer. So, I think it would be great. It could have a 5.7, 6.4 under the hood, inline sixes if they wanted. Could have, you know, just like what we know with the Grand Wagoneer coming up, it's going to have the Ram Charger, you know, electric platform underneath it. So it's going to have 2 EDMs with a Pentastar V6 under the hood connected to an inverter. So you can basically do a range extending electric vehicle. So to me, having a body on frame Durango that's bigger would be a lot better and kind of get Dodge, you know, a bigger spread of SUVs, because obviously SUVs are still widely popular than cars. So you could have a huge fleet of Durango Pursuits in body-on-frame capability. Now, I do think that they need to replace the D segment where the Journey left off. I think that would be a huge thing. And to me, I don't know if you guys think about this, but to me, I've drove the Wagoneer S, and to me, I think that's more Dodge than it is Jeep by far. I understand it's a premium, you know, Jeep, it's a Wagoneer, but to me, the Wagoneer S just looks and feels more like a Dodge. So, I mean, they could have made that into a Dodge rather than a Jeep, because now Jeep has 3 D-segment vehicles. So they have the new Cherokee that's coming out. They have the Wagoneer S, and they have the upcoming Recon, which is coming out very, very soon. So with that being said, it kind of makes sense that Dodge would get something. We know Chrysler's getting a D-segment vehicle. So who knows? But there's a lot of possibilities. I'm saying that Dodge is at a crossroads right now, and that they could easily make the Durango into something, more, updated, more room, and even better for, fleets, like, police agencies. So I know there's a lot of people out there that want a Dodge and don't really care for the Jeep Wagoneer. But, if they would have built the Durango that I seen in the sketches, basically it looks very similar to this. See how the back window looks? Basically that sketch showed a very similar silhouette. The only difference was it was more squared, because if you look at the Wagoneer, it's obviously more squared. It had the same A-pillars as the Wagoneer, so they're a little more upright. And then the front, this is before they got rid of the crosshair that this photo shows. It's very similar to this. The headlamps are basically a little more squintier and a little more angled, but the same kind of style. So they had this pattern here, but they were stretched out more. They're more of an angle, so it looked more swept. And it did have a very similar hood, but it didn't have the heat extractors. It just had the knock-a-dock. But it looked very, very similar. So, and then the back had the racetrack taillights, and basically were more squared. They weren't as rounded. Have you drove a Jeep Trackhawk? Yes, I've drove a Trackhawk several times. My good friend and the co-owner with me of Mopar Insiders, Jared Belfour, had 2 of them. So I've actually driven it on the track, and I've done a whole bunch of stuff with the Trackhawk. Do you like the Escalade V? I'm not a huge fan of the new Escalade, but the Escalade V, the last one, I do like. I like the last generation of it. I do not like the Escalade IQ or the recently updated one, but the gray is nice. Yeah, like right now, it's 10:45 at night, and you can see Destroyer Gray cleans up really good. The only thing that's a complaint I have about Destroyer Gray is if you run it through automatic car washes like my wife does, every year I have to clay bar this thing because it gets a lot of swirls and stuff in it. But I do like Destroyer Gray. The only problem is they've had Destroyer Gray out for so long now that it's a dime a dozen. When I got this thing 2 years ago, you see them every once in a while, and now it's like one of the most popular colors on the Durango. So, but if ultimately this wasn't my first color, I've owned several vehicles in granite crystal, and I would have bought a granite crystal one over this any day. I absolutely love granite crystal. It's one of my favorite colors. If you wax it and stuff, it's very metallic. It's just an absolute beautiful color, and it's easy to keep clean. This one's not bad to keep clean. I really like it. I actually like, if you like Destroyer Gray, recently, last couple of weeks, if you go back on my channel, you'll see a video I did of the RHO. I was at the Chelsea Proving Grounds and got to drive the updated RHO, which I say updated, all it did was it had a MagnaFlow exhaust on it, but it had that new Canyon Lake color, and Canyon Lake is this new green color, and it's very much, it's like picture Destroyer Gray, but add a hue of green to it. So if you like Destroyer Gray, you'll absolutely love the Canyon Lake color. And you can kind of see this color like in the shadows. It almost looks like granite crystal. But until you hit that light, then it looks very matte finish. In Green Machine, dude, you're going to love it. Green Machine, I think, is a better color than F8 green. Green Machine, if you want to really look at a similar color, it kind of looks like F5 green from the 69 model year. It's a lot, how can I say it? F8 green was a very deep olive green. Green Machine is more of a very, it's not as deep, like a dark green. It's kind of a lighter green. But it's still dark, but it's not as dark. And it really stands out because especially on vehicles that have a lot of body lines, so like the Durango here has a lot of different body lines. You can see down here in the doors, how that body line carries over. A lot of those will stick way out compared to F8 green. And they did make an F8 green Durango for 2021. But again, with all the body lines and stuff, that green machine will really stick out. So you'll be really happy with that color. White ones are good too. I don't mind white knuckle. I actually would like white knuckle with the red line package. If you know what the red line package is, it's basically the black stripes with the red tracers. I think that package looks really good. I'm not a huge fan of like blacked out stuff. Like, I hate the murdered out look. I hate the black on black look. I've never been a fan of it. I do like the black top package on this as long as there's a body color to it. But I like the machined look of the wheels and stuff. These wheels are okay. These aren't my favorite style of wheel. This is not a tow and go package. The reason why I didn't get the tow and go package is because this is a used model when I got it. But I do like these wheels. They're not black. These are granite crystal wheels. So this is like the actual color that I actually really like. So even though it's a black top package, it has granite crystal wheels and black mirror caps. So it used to be they would put black wheels on them, but for the last few years they've done black top packages. They have all been granite crystal wheels. So, and then you can see, you know, of course there's Easter eggs on the vehicle. So, you know, Dodge LED, they still put Easter eggs on all these vehicles. But, you know, one thing I'm really happy that they did, like, that really impressed me, was I do love that they put the memory seats up here. They used to be down here in the door, and it was terrible because my knee would always hit them. So I do love that. And again, it's just the simple things. You can see here that the door handles are lit up and stuff like that. But let's see here. I also like the white. I got that red line package on my 2026 as well with the tow and go. So yeah, you'll have a really nice looking rig. My local PD has been Durangos and Chargers for the last 5 years, but they recently outfitted a Grand Cherokee WL74 to test that out and see if it can replace the Durangos. That's very interesting. You know, we recently seen that. I did a whole article about it. The Wagoneer, they've made a special service vehicle version of it, and their Dodge law enforcement's now offering that package as well. So basically you can get a Wagoneer Series 1 that's all decked out with special features, and it can be equipped for law enforcement now. So again, that just goes to show you, by offering a Wagoneer for special services, they could have done a body-on-frame Dodge, and it would have done a lot better, I think. So, I don't know. I really like this package overall. I do love the Gen 3 Durangos. It's just 2029. I mean, that's a long freaking time. 18 years of the same body style. And that goes to show you that, you know, Dodge in the last couple decades have just been carrying everything out. It used to be Chrysler was the innovative company. Every 5 to 6 years, they changed styling, got like something really aggressive. Look at, you know, you go back and look at 1995, they went to the Dart, or not the Dart, but the Neon. 2000, they switched it up to the new Neon, had the SRT 4 a couple years later. You know, then they went to the Caliber, which was pretty radical, even though it had like one of the cheapest interiors ever. And then they went to the Dart. But now it's just, hey, we're going to hold on to this vehicle for 20 plus years. And, you know, while it'd be different if the price stayed low. But to me, when you're switching over to a 5.7 HEMI on your base model and you're raising the price up $4,000, not everybody wants a 5.7 HEMI. Some people that drive distances to work and need a, you know, 6 or 7 passenger vehicle, they want that Pentastar for the mileage. And with the 5.7 HEMI, you get about 25. If you're lucky, usually it's about 20, 21 on the highway. When I had my GT Durango, I could get up to 28 to 30 if I was going, you know, 70. It was funny because on the GT, it had the 850 RE 8-speed transmission in it. If I did 75 miles an hour, I got better mileage than I did at 70. But if I did 55, I could get over 30 with that thing easily. So again, there's some people that just don't need a Hemi. You know, they want the more mileage. They want something, you know, a little cheaper. And I think Dodge is really missing out on that. You know what? I think they're trying to keep this vehicle relevant over the Grand Cherokee. You know, if you really look at it, the Grand Cherokee is the WL is a different platform. They're built on the same line. So the WL is the Giorgio platform. But if you look at the wheelbase of the L and the Durango, it's pretty similar. The same layouts. It has the same formula. And that's why people like the Grand Cherokee L with the HEMI. Because where this thing could tow, like the way this is set up, this doesn't have the tow and go package. It does have a towing package, but it doesn't have the tow and go package. So it doesn't have Brembo brakes and the SRT adaptive suspension. This thing will tow 7,200 pounds. Now, if you could get a Grand Cherokee L with the HEMI back in, you know, 2021 or 2022, you could get that 7,200 pounds. Now with the tow and go, you can tow up to 8,700 pounds. And it's the same for the RT. Well, I would say same for the GT. It's going to be the same for the, well, GT tow and go, RT 392 tow and go, and the Hellcat, because they all have the same suspension and brakes. But ultimately, I mean, a lot of people, you know, don't want the Dodge. They want a premium vehicle, so they would go to the Grand Cherokee. To me, you know, they'll eventually come back out with it. Bob Bordendorf basically hinted like, hey, you know, we're working at returning some V8s to the lineup. And what does that mean? Well, it means Grand Wagoneer, Wagoneer, and Grand Cherokee, right? So probably in another, I don't know, 15 to 24 months, we'll probably have another Grand Cherokee with a HEMI. But one of the biggest questions I get is, you know, why don't they have a HEMI in the Grand Cherokee L anymore? And that was just because they were cutting out the HEMI, and the HEMI wasn't even supposed to exist in 2026. 2025 was supposed to be the last year for it. So, but other than that, again, styling looks good, but it's starting to get old. And, you know, I just think like now with the Fratzog logo, you still got the Romby logos and stuff on the current ones. If they're going to keep it to 2029, they got to do something. Do some kind of front fascia kind of change, or do something to kind of update it to make it relevant. The only problem is what they're going to do is they're just going to take and milk it, and it'll become like what the Journey was. Eventually, by the last model year, they'll decontent it, so it's basically nothing, and it really wrecks the whole experience of ownership. And basically, what it does is it also, if you keep building the same thing forever, it wrecks the value on these vehicles too. So if they're building this is 2021 and it's 2026 and they're still building the exact same thing in the same color and everything, it's just wrecking the residual values on these too. So, but yeah, I mean, again, the future of the Durango could be bright. I really would like to see them build a body-on-frame one, but who knows? You know, we know that, you know, they're big into their Stella large platforms. I just think with law enforcement and that, they would want a bigger vehicle. And again, you got people that want to tow. This thing can tow with the tow and go package 8,700 pounds. Imagine if you had a bigger boat and you're a Dodge fan, or you have a car hauler, and you got a Wagoneer styled Durango that can tow up to 10,000 pounds. So let's see here. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, I agree, Yogi. The thing is with the HEMI, like this one only has 360 horsepower. You know, it's got, you know, 395 pound-feet of torque, and it's got plenty of grunt. But the Gen 3 HEMI is old. That's another thing. Everybody's praising the HEMI return. I do like the fact that the HEMI's back, but, you know, it's a 23-year-old engine. So the 5.7 has gone through a couple of different variants. Okay, the biggest update this thing got since 2003 was in 2008, and that's the same kind of configuration this has been in since. If you pop the hood and look at the engine cover on this thing, it's the same engine cover that the HEMI's had since 2005. You know, nothing has really changed for the engine, other than in 2008 it got a mild update when it became the Eagle, when the actual code name became Eagle. And, you know, on the Rams, it got an update in 2019 with the e-torque system. And then there's been a couple smaller updates due to the e-torque system with PCMs and stuff on the Rams. But other than that, this HEMI's been the same in this Durango since, really the biggest change was going to an 8-speed automatic. That was in 2014. But this configuration right here, other than the front fascias and the dash and the door panels, everything is the same since 2014. So the tail lamps, all that stuff. And I'll tell you another thing that's weird about this vehicle. If you own one of these vehicles, I will warn you, you probably already know this. There's a couple things with this tail lamp design that kind of suck. The first thing is, these are known to get water in them. People have complained to Dodge for years that they want to recall. For some reason or another, they get moisture in them, and you'll see them driving down the highway with this part burn out. A lot of people just like leave them because they're not going to pay it's literally $1,200 for this tail lamp that goes across. The other thing is, if you notice right here, this edge is super sharp. I have a scar on my right forearm. I've actually cut myself several times, like opening the hatch and like leaning in to hit the button while carrying groceries, and then you just kind of nudge yourself up against it. I literally have a scar from that. So those tail lamps are sharp, and you can see like how much, let me see, you can see how much this sticks out. Like if I put my fingers across, my finger stops. So you can cut yourself really easy on this jagged plastic. So, but again, you know, it's funny. So this vehicle was designed in like 2008 to replace, you know, the second gen Durango. And by the time it got to market, it was 2011, so 2010. But if you look at this and compare it to a first gen Durango, the reason why I like this body style so much is it has a lot of first gen Durango design in it. See this body line here? This body line on the bottom? That is first gen Durango. Totally. If you look here, it still has the big rig styling where it comes up and goes up a little bit, but it's not as aggressive. So this does have a lot of hint of the first gen Durango, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. If you look at the 2019 Ram 1500 to the current generation, if you look on the doors of those trucks, it has that same body line. And the reason why is they actually took my favorite pickup, the 1997 to 2004 Dakota, and used that as influence for the styling. So there's a lot of things that they could do to update this vehicle. But overall, yeah, 2029, that's going to be a long freaking time. Put some roll bar padding on it. Yeah, then the hatch wouldn't set up right. If you put padding on it, it's not enough gap. You could put like maybe hockey friction tape on the edge, but there's not enough gap. I can't even push my finger in there. It's just when the hatch is up. When the hatch is up, let me see if I can show you. When the hatch is up on this thing, see how jagged that is? Like it's sharp to the touch. So when you come in and you hit the button right here, all you have to do is hit your forearm against it and you'll cut yourself really bad because the button's right here. So, but overall, again, it's a good vehicle. My family loves it. My wife loves this thing. And again, this is my third gen Durango. And you can see it's only got 45,000 miles. I bought it and it had 22. So we've literally in 2 years, we put, you know, about 23,000 miles, doubled the mileage on it. And I plan on keeping it for quite a while. So the only problem is my wife drives it. I'm OCD about my cars and she throws stuff everywhere. But again, I love the fact that it has physical buttons. The Uconnect system's okay. You know, it's got a trailer brake controller down there. It does have the Alpine system, which sounds actually pretty good. But again, you know, not a huge difference from the 2026 model. So again, I mean, Dodge has to do something to kind of keep this vehicle relevant until late 2029. V6 could be the SXT. That would be a great idea, but I just don't understand why they would, like, this is an RT, so it's pretty loaded, you know. You get leather trim and stuff like that. But why not make this the RT Premium? You know, if you want the vented seats and all that, which I absolutely love. If you want the vented seats and all that, get a premium model. But keep the RT name for the 5.7. If you wanted the 6.4 to come back, make a Scat Pack. That would have changed a lot of people's opinions because, hey, Dodge is doing something different. They're bringing a Scat Pack Durango. Can you believe that? You know how many people would buy a Scat Pack Durango over an RT 392? You know, the marketing is there. The marketing already wrote itself. I just think they missed a huge opportunity. They could have done Scat Pack, you know, Durango. Basically, it's the SRT 392, and they would just have to, you know, they would save the SRT for the Hellcat. But that what they would do is they would make, you know, more, like they're going to try to make more high impact colors. That's why we're seeing, like, you know, Green Machine come in, and then we're seeing the jailbreaks where they're actually going to build that jailbreak, you know, one of one. But the weird thing is everybody's asking me about that. Dodge is actually picking who gets it. It's not going to be part of the jailbreak program. A lot of people think that that extra $1,000 will get you a one-of-one paint scheme. Not true at all. Instead, what they're doing is they're going to make it so, like the Demon 170 jailbreak program, they're going to pick a limited number of people to basically, like, oh, hey, we like this influencer. We're going to give them the offer for like an additional 20 grand or whatever to get a one-of-one Durango. So there's not going to be many of those built. You know, that's just for hype. So a lot of people, you know, don't understand that. They think like, oh, I'm going to get the jailbreak for $1,000 and I can do that. 6 million kind of like configurations with a jailbreak has to do with the fact that you can get, there's like what, 6 different colored, well, there's all the exterior colors, which is I think like 8 exterior colors. There's 5 different stripe packages. There is 4 different badging colors. There's 4 different colors for the brake rotors. You can get 4 different colors for seat belts, 4 different colors of seats. So you can do like pretty much all that. So if you can mix it up, when you figure out the different configurations and all the different wheel combinations, because they actually have new wheel combinations coming out for 2026, then you're looking at the 6 million. But that one-of-one program doesn't mean, hey, you can pick from 6 million colors. That one-of-one program is something Dodge is doing separate. So a lot of people have had questions about that. And, you know, we've talked to Dodge management about it quite a bit, and they haven't released any official information just yet. They said, oh, information will come down, you know, soon enough. Well, unfortunately, those who think like that jailbreak program is going to give you a one-on-one paint scheme, it's not. So you're going to have to wait for Dodge to pick certain influencers, and that kind of sucks. But, you know, cool idea. It's, you know, just a little different. But they got to do something to kind of, you know, change things up. The dash and stuff, I absolutely love the dash in here. Like this one, like I said, because it has, I love the red. Like this is one of the reasons why I got this one. It does have like these carbon fiber like accents and stuff over here, and you know, it's got this performance like steering wheel and stuff like that, and paddle shifters. You know, it's a nice looking vehicle, but the vent design in this looks very much like a 2013 Dart, and it's starting to get outdated. So they're going to have to do something to kind of update this vehicle if it's going to last as long as it is. Just being said. So you ditched the girl but kept the car. Are you talking about my 2003 Durango, Greg? Or are you talking about this? So blinkers going out as well, non-servable happened. Yeah, exactly, Yogi. That's another problem that they've had. You know, just a lot of stupid stuff with those taillights. The new taillight technology is getting better and better, but the thing is, for example, I had a 2014 Dodge Charger RT all-wheel drive car, and I actually had 2 of them, and one of them had like 2 of the LEDs burn out in it. And I was so freaking OCD about it. I was like, you know, I'm going to get another replacement panel. Well, I bought the warranty that covered pretty much everything on the car. So I actually went to the dealer, and for $100, they gave me the whole panel for the back of that car, and that panel was $1,000. $1,000 to replace the stupid tail lamps. And that's what I'm saying. Like, these vehicles, yeah, they look cool and stuff, but they've gotten kind of like out of control for when you have to replace stuff. And a lot of people are just like, dude, I'm not paying the extra $1,000 to replace those fancy taillights. You know, there's simple things that they could do to make sure that, you know, those taillights don't get wrecked like that. And it involves not Stellantis. Stellantis going to the supplier and saying, hey, we're having a massive problem with people getting water in their tail lamps. You either need to fix that or we'll find somebody else to build, you know, a new, taillight setup for it. That's what they got to do. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened since 2014. So I don't understand why. Like, they need to be more aggressive about how they pursue their, their suppliers. Because the suppliers are the ones that ultimately cause, a lot of their recalls and a lot of the situations that kind of tick off customers. I'm not saying all of the issues, but I'm saying a lot of them. So, we drive a Hyundai Tucson. Let's see here. Still my favorite SUV on the road. Oh, dude, it's one of the most comfortable SUVs out there. I absolutely love it. The range on this, we get about 370 miles on a tank of fuel with the HEMI. It's not too bad. Otherwise, it's just, if you look at, like, I love this vehicle. I got a good deal on it. My cousin sold it to me. I absolutely love the way, like I said, I got the red interior, the red and black interior. I love that, especially with the Destroyer Gray. The thing is it's just starting to look outdated. Another thing is it gets dirty really easy, but it's just starting to look outdated. Like I said, with like the vents and stuff, you can see they look like a dart. This interior came out in 2021, and I mean, one thing I do like compared to my 2005 Dodge Charger, 2025 Dodge Charger, is it does have these aluminum bezels. I do like that. I think that this interior, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This interior, this actual materials are 1,000 times better than what are in my 2025 Dodge Charger. The materials, the way things feel, even the shitty plastic in it, like back here, this is better than what my Scat Pack has, my 2025. So, I mean, yeah, ultimately, I just think that they need to kind of give it some tweaks, They don't have to do a radical redesign. They don't have to spend a lot, but do something to kind of update the interior. If not, make like certain different colors or do something. So, I mean, this thing here, this whole overhead console has been so old. Like, this goes back to what? Early, like mid 2000s, early 2000s. This exact center of this exact ceiling console. So I mean, not much has changed there. So, but they got to do something. I just think that they're gonna really tick off a lot of people, and they're gonna wreck the residual value on these if they don't. Oh yeah. Like this isn't bad. I love how this is set up. And the funny thing is, like, this plastic here, this rubberized elephant skin plastic, 1,000 times better than any of the new material that you'll feel in any of the new Stella large vehicles. I'm not joking with you. I think that the new materials that they're using are crap. They feel like they've been cost cutted. Even the leather, like these have leather wrapped door panels. And they're thick and they feel like leather. My new Charger has this material that's made of eco-friendly materials. I think it's like recycled pop bottles and something. And it feels like really flimsy, almost, it's not felt, but like it's like vinyl, but it doesn't even look like leather. Like this looks like more like leather. You see how it has the elephant skin kind of look to it? That feels more like leather than what the new materials are on the new cars. So I just think that they need to, I would love to see them, even though these are like old school materials and they're trying to look more premium, I actually like the feel and touch and the durability of these materials than the new Dodge Charger. For what it is, basically a 20-year-old Mercedes ML, I'm surprised that this Durango is still around. This thing was designed, it was actually designed in 2008 is when it actually got designed. It's just a big Charger. Kinda. That's why they originally went from being an SUV to they call it a muscle UV or whatever the heck it was, because they said, hey, it's a 3-road basic charger. Well, it kind of has become that, but hold on here, I'm gonna put my seatbelt on. But ultimately, you know, they're not that far off. They've updated small things over the years, but they could do better. I mean, especially if you're keeping the vehicle for as long as they are. I don't understand, you know, it's going to wreck. I'm not saying that as an owner, like, oh, it's going to wreck my residual value. These things don't hold their value any better than anything else. I bought this thing, what 2 years ago now? Almost 2 years ago. I bought this thing and it had 22,000, like, I want to say 22,600 miles on it. And I paid $40 for it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to hold its value, you know, compared to other SUVs on the market. That's the thing that's kind of disappointing about Dodge. And then now that, like, if you guys, like, all right, so I bought this at $40,000. If you look at a 2021 Durango RT, they started out about $38,000 back in 2021. If you get this one stickered for, I want to say 51, because it has pretty much every option other than the tow and go. So, but the problem is if you look at the sticker now, this exact vehicle would be almost $70,000. It's freaking crazy in my opinion. And it's the same vehicle and the tooling's all paid off. My 94-year-old grandpa loved it. He just passed this week. Oh, I'm sorry, man. He passed last week. Said he felt like he was getting in a fighter jet. Sorry about that. So, but anyways, I mean, it drives really good. I can't complain too much. It needs to be cleaned because my wife, like, decided to wipe the windows down on the inside. You can see how streaked they are. That's one thing. I'm, like, really OCD, and she always gets mad at me because I'm always on her butt about keeping this thing clean. Because I get in here and there's Stanleys and Starbucks cups everywhere. But ultimately, it's one of the better driving SUVs out there. So this does have, like, a little bit of adaptive adaptive suspension. It doesn't have the SRT, like, 3 mode, but it does have 2 mode. So you do have a sport mode, which is kind of funny because I just looked at this thing, and the one thing I absolutely love about it, and for some reason my wife had it turned off, or on, I mean, is that you can turn eco mode completely off. So it shuts MDS completely off, and it stays off. So if you don't like the like multi-displacement system, you can run this without it, and you don't have to have a programmer or anything like that. Just turn eco right off, and it basically forces it in the V8 mode full time. But you can see sport mode. I don't know why she turned that off. I never ever turn that or had it on. I never turn it ever on. But if you hit sport mode, get the little checkered flag, steering tightens up a little bit. It's not as aggressive as, so kidding. Programmers on mine and just shut off. The one thing with the 5.7 HEMI, I will tell you, I've always had programmers, and the first thing I do is I shut the MDS off, and the second thing I do is I end up putting oil catch cans on them. If you want your HEMI to last, the best thing you can do is get rid of the multi-displacement system and put a oil catch can in it and empty it out every 2 months. You would not believe how much oil gets sucked up in that oil catch can. I used to dump mine out. I've had, like I said, how many 5.7s have I had? I've had the 2 Chargers. I had my Ram, my 2019 Ram 1500 Laramie Sport. I've had this. So I've had 4 5.7 Hemis. I've had in the 6.4 392 in my 300C. So I've owned 5 Hemis in the last 12 years. And all of them have gotten oil catch cans and the MDS turned off on them. And yeah, they still have the HEMI tick, but you know what? It's only really when it starts up, because what happens is it has to get all that oil up into the top of the engine. But I've never had any issues with my Hemis ever by doing that. So, but oil catch can is a must on a Hemi. Will they be able to keep up Mexico making the Hemi? No, not right now. They're not. They're building Hemis like crazy because there's a demand for them. So who knows? They're supposed to be moving productions of some of the engines here. You know, I've gotten bashed by a lot of people because my cohort Jared Belfour heard from one of the sources at the plant saying that Dundee will have a 5.7 Hemi built there. However, it would make sense because considering everything with the 5.7 Hemi is in around Metro Detroit. So, but what we're hearing is it'll eventually come, but they're going to ramp up Mexico first. The problem is a lot of people have to understand is money. Stellantis is really hard up for cash right now. A lot of the things that they're doing, they just don't have the cash for it all. So that's the problem. You can only do so many changes without spending a ton of money. So why don't they move the Hurricane? I don't know. That's a good question. The thing is Trenton's also looking for stuff too. So, you know, if it's not Dundee, it's got to be Trenton. One of the two. You know, Dundee's already building the new 1.6 liter for the Cherokee. They just got that done. That guy who got killed there, he was actually helping put the lineup for that engine. You know, but the source that told us this was a higher up in the company, and I don't doubt him. I just think that right now everything comes down to cost because, dude, the company is bleeding cash. That's the Hemi. The return of the 5.7 Hemi and the Ram was the easiest thing and cheapest thing they could do to kind of bring back customers. And again, you've heard it right from the Ram staff on the channel here that the 5.7, you know, basically they couldn't change it. That's why it has the e-torque. But 40% of the customers from Ram, 40% said they would not buy another Ram if it didn't have a V8. And I have no idea what the heck this person's doing. They're stopping at there's no stop sign. Then there's nobody in the crosswalk. I have no idea what the heck they're doing. They're from Massachusetts. I have no idea. So, but anyways, yeah. There's just, you know, it's just, they got to come up with money. And the Hemi is the easiest way they can come up with money, to be honest with you. So, we'll see. Is this an RT? Yes, this is a 5.7 RT. I kind of wanted to bring it out because last night everybody was bashing me for driving well, not everybody. So there's a few people bashing me for driving a Charger Daytona. But you know what? I've always had a V8 powered vehicle. I've always had one. So, yeah, the one I'm driving is a 2021 Dodge Durango RT Blacktop Edition. No tow and go package, but it's Destroyer gray, red and black interior. It's pretty much fully loaded. The only option it doesn't have is the tow and go. So it's got and it doesn't have the DVD players on the back either, because I could care less about the DVD players. The kids end up playing on their cell phone anyways. So, but I've road tripped enough Durangos, and I'm a huge fan of the first gen. Actually, the first gen Durangos are among my favorite. They're in my top 3 favorite vehicles of all time. So if you look at what my top 3 favorite vehicles of all time are, my favorite truck of all time is the 1997 to 2004 Dodge Dakota. I love that truck. And then if you had to look at my favorite vehicles after that, it would be the 1964 to 1991 SJs. It doesn't matter if it's a truck or the Wagoneers or the Cherokees. I absolutely love the SJ platform. It's probably, like, I would have to say that's a very close tie to the Dakota. And then my third favorite vehicle of all time is the first gen 1998 to 2003 Dodge Durango. So I absolutely love those, especially with a 4.7 V8. Those are among my favorite vehicles of all time. We're gonna loop back over here. We're gonna get on Woodward Avenue, and I'm gonna head home here. But anyways, yeah, I think that they need to do something to fix this kind of vehicle up, make it a little more updated, because if it's going to last to 2029, they got to take and keep customers interested in it. The other thing is, I understand why they did the HEMI for the 5.7 for the GT, but to me, when you're volume customers and you're basically, Dodge is hitting it hard right now for sales, when your volume customers buy the V6, it makes no freaking sense to eliminate it. Why not add to your lineup rather than take away from your lineup? All you had to do was take and make a cheaper RT model, offer cloth standard, and it would have been fine. So I just think they're playing like a really weird game. I understand, like, HEMI everything, that's fine, but honestly, there's a lot of people who just don't want the HEMI. A lot of people don't want to spend the extra cash, or they have a hard time doing it. Insurance rates go up when you have the HEMI, so a lot of people can't afford high, priced insurance. And people are just looking for, like, hey, I want a Durango because I want a 3-row vehicle. So, and if you drive long distances on the highway and stuff, the Pentastar kind of makes more sense. So there's a lot of reasons why they should have kept it. I'm sorry. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me getting rid of it. But they could have, like I said, they could have done a Durango Scat Pack. I think the Durango Scat Pack would have been a killer idea. I think it would have probably been one of the best-selling vehicles in the lineup for sure. Anything with a Scat Pack name in today's world does pretty good, other than the Charger Daytona, because it's an EV. But if they would have done, 6.4 392 Durango Scat Pack, offered some new wheel designs, they could have done like a cloth interior. You had to step up to a performance seat, basically, the HELLCAT seats with, the Scat Pack B logos. It would have sold awesome. It really would. It would have done a really good job for Dodge, and it would have been a really good marketing ploy. The Scat Pack marketing is already there. So, but, yeah. No, I don't think so either. That's one thing I absolutely hated was, and everybody complained at me about it, was, oh, all you do is complain, because I was the first one to say, like, hey, those cars are not wide bodies. They're just fender flares added onto the cars. I thought it was like a really crappy way of saying a wide body. And the new Dodge Charger is a natural wide body. It actually is. It's 2 inches wider than the HELLCAT wide bodies, and it's actually got no fender flares on it. So I laugh when everybody's like, oh, I have to have a wide body kit car. It's not a wide body. It's just fender flares with 305s thrown underneath it. Sorry, that's what it is. You're totally right. I think they're setting the Pentastar up to be only used. No, that's not true, because it's going to be still in the Pacifica. It's still going to be in. They just announced that they're going to offer it back in most of the Wrangler lineup. If you watch my video from the Cherokee launch, Bob Bordendorf basically said, the Jeep CEO, he basically said that, the powertrains are coming back. He's not gonna limit you to, if you want like a Turbo 4 or a Pentastar, you have to get certain transmissions and stuff. It's going to be a la carte. So, but yeah, the Pentastar is not going anywhere. Ram 1500 is still going to have it as its base engine. It's just, they're getting away from it in the Durango, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. The Pentastar Durango is actually a really good vehicle. It's very smooth driving. Gets decent mileage. Like I said, if I'm on the highway with my 2018 one, I was doing 75 miles an hour. I was getting close to 28 miles a gallon. If I did 55 at cruising speeds with cruise control, I could get 30 with it. So it wasn't bad at all. Oh, easy markup. Definitely, man. Definitely. They need profitable vehicles, but the problem is when you milk things for cash cows, we've seen how it happened with the Grand Caravan up until 2020, and we've seen how it happened with the Journey. The problem is the one thing that Stellantis and FCA have failed at over the years is they milk something out for so long, they don't replace it, and then when it's time to replace it, to cancel it, they don't have a replacement for it. And the funny thing is Antonio Filosa has said that, and there's 7 vehicles that had no replacements for them. If you look at what vehicles they were, Chrysler 300, right? Didn't have a replacement for it, was ended. Look at the Jeep Renegade, didn't have a replacement for it, got canceled. Ram ProMaster City, little compact, van for, commercial use, did pretty decent in sales, didn't have a replacement for it. The Dodge Journey, no replacement for it. The Cherokee had no replacement for it. Grand Caravan eventually got a replacement for itself with the Voyager. But again, you're looking at, that vehicle is very limited to what it is. And I ultimately think they should get rid of the Voyager and bring that back as a Dodge. I think a Dodge Grand Caravan would be great for the U.S. Something sporty with a sporty, like they could keep a base model minivan with just cloth seats and just basically put, make it exactly how the Voyager is, but just give it a Dodge front end and some Dodge taillights, and it would be a huge seller. Ralph Gilles came up with the whole man van idea back in 2011. They basically made the Grand Caravan RT, gave it a little more beefier suspension, and all they did was they made the interior completely black and gave it a really kick-ass sound system. And people bought those up like crazy, and it later became the GT. I always thought the GME T4 was going to replace the Pentastar. Yeah, a lot of people did, but the Pentastar is its own thing. There's certain vehicles like the minivans, like a GME T4 would not be a really good engine in the minivans. Some vehicles are just good for displacement, like bigger displacement engines. Like, to me, the GME T4 engines are nice and everything. I've drove several of them, but I do like the Pentastar better. I am one of those people who I actually like big displacement engines without turbocharging, without, superchargers. I'd rather have a naturally aspirated engine than having something turbocharged and really small displacement. My wife had a Renegade. Just before I gave her this, she had a Renegade. She had with the 1.3 liter turbo. That thing was pretty fast and stuff. But I mean, when you're driving and you got 4 people in the car and you're driving highway speeds and stuff, that little 1.3 liter, man, that thing is working its ass off. So did it get great gas mileage? Not really, because it's working harder than what a bigger engine would. That's why with the Pentastar, I could get like 30 miles a gallon if I did 55 with the stupid thing. It's a bigger displacement V6. Had an 8-speed automatic transmission, and to me, 8 speeds are perfect. You don't need a 10-speed automatic transmission. You just don't. So if you have a 10-speed, I think it's too many gears. But, there's a lot of things that they could have done better with those engines and stuff. But, again, the Pentastar has been around for a long time. A lot of people don't know this, but the original plan for the Pentastar was they were going to have a V8 based on it. They were going to build a marine engine. They were going to build a 4.7-liter V8. If you don't believe me, go to allpar.com, or you just type it in Google, Allpar 4.7-liter Pentastar V8, and it will come up. They were supposed to build it. It was canceled at the last minute, and unfortunately, it never happened. But they were going to build a 4.7-liter Pentastar V8. So, about to buy a Dark Horse. The Dark Horse is a cool car, man. 5 liter is a really good engine. The Coyote motor, 500 horsepower. I obviously manual transmission. I think the Dark Horse is actually a really nice car. The only thing I don't like about the new Mustang is the back on it. I really hate the back, but I think the Dark Horse is a nice package, especially right now because Mustangs aren't selling. So you can get a pretty damn good deal on a Dark Horse, especially if you live here in Metro Detroit, because a lot of people have access to an A or a Z plan from Ford, so you can stack incentives on it. So they made a 3-liter, correct? They did it for China as well. All the Jeep Cherokees that went over to China actually had a 3-liter Pentastar V6 under the hood, because at the time you would be very heavily taxed, if you had over 3 liters of displacement. Yes, Maserati also got a bunch of the Penastars and had them redone. They were basically massaged by Ferrari to build engines for Maserati. There was also the Cherokee, the KL, also had a 3.2 liter version of the Pentastar V6. A lot of people forget that the KL Cherokee never had a 3.6 liter under the hood. It just had a 3.2 liter, which had 232 horsepower. So, hey man, how's it going? So, is the Pentastar staying with the Grand Cherokee? No. As far as I know, it's going to be that GME T4 Evo engine. And from what I've heard is the reason why it's been delayed is they kept blowing up. So hopefully they got that situated, because we're going to see that thing launch here in the next couple of months. And I'm very curious to see how that engine is. I've been hearing a lot of different things, horsepower ratings on it. So it's going to be well over 300 horsepower. So we'll see. We will see. Again, hopefully it holds together. But, you know, the GME T4 is not a bad engine. I've driven several of them in like Julia's, and I've drove a couple Stelvios with them. I've drove a Wrangler with one, obviously. It's not a bad engine. It's not my favorite engine by any means. So I actually like the Hurricane Inline 6 better than the GME T4. The T6 is a better engine in my opinion. So go off-roading with for us. It's kind of hard to do when you're in the city, man. If I lived out in the country still, I would definitely take this thing off-roading. I got all terrains on this. Have you seen the latest Bob Lutz interview? He commented that the car industry in general, big three, as well as overseas ones. No, I haven't seen the new one. Is that like this week that Bob Lutz did an article or interview? Because I love Maximum Bob. Are you a technician or a salesman? No, I'm an automotive journalist. I'm an automotive journalist. I own a bunch of Mopar websites. I've been a Mopar diehard since I was 3 years old. I own 5 Mopar-related websites, and I own one that's a non-Mopar website. So I'll have to check it out. Is it just on YouTube? If it's on YouTube, I'll check it out. They're making a mistake with the Grand Cherokee. The Evo engine is supposed to blow up pulling a 6,000-pound SUV. Yeah, yep. And the problem is I guess the towing numbers won't be anything like the HEMI, like it was. So you'll probably have maybe, I don't know, 4,500, maybe 5,000 pounds of towing. So that's the problem. Like I'm a person who likes, you know, halfway decent displacement. You know, like I want something with more displacement. I don't really care for turbos. I don't care for, you know, superchargers all that much, just because I want something that, I don't want something like superchargers and turbos have their way for performance and stuff, but I hate these little small displacement engines with little stupid little turbos. I get like why they do it for all this emissions crap and that, but to me, those engines are working so hard. For example, the EcoBoost engines, right? There's like the 2.3 liter EcoBoost that's in the Ranger. Yeah, they have the 3.5, or not the 3.5, what is it? The 3 liter, right? It's a 3 liter EcoBoost in the Raptor, I think it is, right? So anyways, they have that. That's fine. But the problem is you get these little 4 cylinders. 2.3 isn't too bad. But when you get down to like 1.5 or 1.6 or 1.3, you work the hell out of those little engines. So to me, I'd rather have a bigger displacement V6. I don't mind V6s. I think V6s are a pretty decent engine. The Pentastar is a good engine. It has its quirks, but if you actually follow the instructions and maintain your engines like you're supposed to, oh, hey, it needs a timing chain at, 100,000 miles. I should get that done. And you do it, your vehicle will last quite a bit longer than what people will say. If you don't do your oil changes regularly and you just don't take care of your vehicle, yeah, it's not going to be bulletproof. It's not going to last forever. People who have a lot of miles on their vehicles tend to take care of them. So that's what I've been telling my wife the whole time. That's why I get mad about, like, hey, I'm the only one who does oil changes in it. We just went on a trip with this thing. I guarantee, look at oil life, 9%. So guess who's going to be taking it in to get an oil change? Me. And that's the thing. I'm very, like, that should have been done already. But because I'll end up doing it, that's fine. But you get what I'm saying? Like, take care of your stuff, and it'll last longer. Maybe some type of update to the Pentastar. I know about the Pug, but it really didn't add any horsepower. No, it didn't add really any horsepower or anything to it. The Pentastar that's going to be under the hood of the Ram Charger and the Grand Wagoneer 4xe is actually, it's pretty much the same design, but it's got 40% different parts from what I've been told. The Pentastar that's going to be used as a generator, because again, it's going to be used as a generator. It's not powering the car. So by them adding new, different components to it, it's the purpose of it is to act as a generator. It's not going to be an engine propelling the vehicle. So it doesn't need to run like massive loads on it. It's basically just going to be something that can, it can if it needs to charge fast, but I've seen a couple Ram Chargers out. If you watch my video on here, I actually caught one. It was kind of weird because I caught one when I went to Kroger's one night with my daughter to get something for lunch, and we actually seen one, and it was running out in the parking lot. And I was like, oh, it parked like kitty corner for me. So I actually shot some video of it. I went up to it. It was running. Nobody was in it. He was actually charging it while the person was in the store. They had the doors locked, obviously, but it was charging, and it wasn't running hard or load or anything. It just sounded like it was idling. So we'll see more about it like pretty soon, because that vehicle, the Ram Charger, is due out in Q1 of 2026. And Tim Kaniska said, hey, it's going to be there. And trust me, I actually believe that. Like, it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, but you should see the number of Ram Chargers, like test vehicles, that are out on the roads here right now. CTC has probably 15 to 20 of them out running around. There's a company that they do contracting with called Link. They're out of Dearborn. They do tons of testing, and they have multiple Ram Chargers running around. They run them all day, all night. I've seen tons of them. So the Evo engine needs to be a 2.4 liter at minimum. 2 liter is way too small. I don't necessarily think a 2 liter is too small. The only thing I don't know. To me, if you're going to run that much horsepower in it, over 300, yeah, I would say, yeah, it needs to be a little like bigger. I don't know. It all depends, because the problem I have is they run like these aluminum, like little aluminum 4-cylinders, and even over in Europe, these little aluminum like 3-cylinder engines, very small displacement. Like there's one, like, for example, the 1.3, 1.5 liter engines are based on what they call the Global Small Engine Platform. So it's GSE instead of GME. GME is the Global Medium Engine. But anyways, the Global Small Engine ones are these little, little displacement, like that was in the Renegade, 1.3 liter, all aluminum, little 4-cylinder engine with a small turbo. And you're working that thing hard. Especially if you can't really tow with those vehicles. Like the Renegade only had a towing capacity, I think, of like, I want to say like not even 2,000 pounds. So those vehicles aren't made to tow, period. So to me, like when I see like bigger SUVs, like we look at the, like, what's it, anything from Chevy, that Chevy has like the 1.5 liter turbo in some of their bigger SUVs. To me, that if you're not towing, that's fine. You can see here, like, look, there's a Durango right there. I'm just parked behind a gas station right now. You can see that Durango right there. See how I told you about the tail lamps? See how it's burned out because they get water in them? And then it's $1,200 to replace that light. So, but yeah, the problem is like, I don't want small displacement engines. I understand they do them for like regulations and stuff like that, but we're starting to see that, people don't want that crap. A lot of people want bigger displacement engines. They want what they want to be able to choose. And we're starting to finally see that, like if you watch my video from earlier today, for example, right? If you watch my video, you'll notice that basically I go through all these articles about the EU and all of these like different, like if you look at Germany and Italy and, Poland and all that, they're fighting to all these EU regulations. They can't meet these emission standards, but they don't want EVs. EVs are too expensive. So they're fighting the EU right now on all these regulations. They want to cut all that stuff back. And if they can bring cheaper, internal combustion engines in. So yeah, they might have smaller displacement engines over there, but here it's common for us to tow things. Like, how many people over there have like I got a 26-foot boat, right? I'm going to tow it to the lake. Not many people in Europe do that kind of thing. So they can have smaller displacement engines over there. Here, people do things totally different. Our atmospheres are totally different in how we use vehicles. Here, there's not much mass transit, especially here in Detroit. We do not have mass transit, mainly because here, the big three really pushed against it. People didn't want the big three, paid several legislatures, to basically, void out mass transit things. We don't have trains going from town to town like Chicago does. We don't have, we have the highways. That's pretty much it. And a lot of people drive here in Detroit to go to their job. So the problem is when you do stuff, well, that guy lives down the street from me with that, he's got a BMW i8 Roadster. So anyways, the problem is what you do is you have to drive everywhere, and people drive for farther distances. They, take their families on longer vacations, not longer vacations, but longer trip, vacations and stuff than what they do in Europe. And the thing is we drive everywhere. We tow things. You go camping, you tow a camper. They have campers over in Europe, but most of them are like, if people do camping, they're either pulling like small pop-ups or little dinky travel trailers, or they're pulling like maybe they'll have like a Fiat Ducato motorhome, like an actual chassis cab motorhome. Over here, we have massive 40-foot fifth wheels or 36-foot fifth wheels and stuff. So yeah, this Durango can tow 7,200 pounds. I can go get a 26-foot camper and tow it. I guarantee there's not many vehicles other than like maybe a Volkswagen Atlas or something like that that's over in Europe, maybe some Mercedes M-classes that will be able to tow something like that over there. You're very limited on what you can use. And they don't use vehicles like we do. It's simple. Shouldn't the Hurricane T6 technically be considered a global large engine? Yeah, it's still considered a global mid-size engine for some reason. I think it's because of displacement. Really, it's a completely different engine than the four-cylinder. Really, those engines really don't have a lot in common, which is kind of funny. And a lot of people don't know this. I've said this multiple times. Grant, you probably heard me repeat this a dozen times. The original team that worked on the T6, actually a lot of them were from the Viper team. So the guys that worked on the Gen 5 Viper engine, a lot of them, when they were done with that, they actually went over and started working on the Hurricane engines. And it wasn't until, if my buddy Dave was in here, he could tell you, it wasn't until later down the development line that they decided to make it cheaper, and they started putting all that plastic crap on the top of the engine. The Hurricane would be a great engine if they got rid of the plastic on the top. All that stuff, that engine is, it's a 3-liter displacement engine, but it gets hot. And a lot of times they've had like thermostat failures because the thermostat housings are all plastic and they melt. They need to fix it up. They could easily make the Hurricane engine pretty much bulletproof if they had to. They just have to spend some money. So, but again, I want to see a new lineup of V8s. I would love to see the Pentastar get a little more update. I think the Pentastar is a great engine. You have to maintain it. You just have to keep it up maintenance-wise. So, there's a lot of things that they can do. It's just everything costs money, and Stellantis doesn't have the money right now. So until they get, some money rolling in by reintroducing HEMIs and trying to get customers back in the door and start lowering the prices of vehicles, which they have been, and offering more affordable vehicles, I think that, we're going to keep seeing the same stuff. The problem is when you have a Durango and you get rid of your mass, your V6 lineup, which is your mass seller, your volume seller, to me, it doesn't make any sense. But we will see. We will see how the all HEMI lineup does, because I don't think it's going to be as successful as what they think. I just don't. Why spend their own money? What do you mean, why spend their own money? The T6 is a Chrysler engine through and through. It was created by the Viper team as a response to the EcoBoost. Correct. Correct. And the reason why they went with an inline six was because it's a smooth engine. And if you've driven the Hurricane, it is a very, very smooth engine. I had no problem with that Hurricane HO engine when I had it for a week. I absolutely loved it. The only problem I have is, again, the plastic on the top, and you can't check the damn oil. Like, to me, that was the dumbest freaking thing by not putting a dipstick in that thing. I don't understand why they haven't done it. Got any road beers? No, I wish I did, man. My wife didn't leave me anything. I threw out some Starbucks cups, and she's got a Stanley in here with just water. But, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things they could do, and we're gonna see like big changes coming through. But for powertrain wise, the GME T4 Evo they've been working on for a while. I just have heard, a lot of things with them blowing up. It's gonna be interesting to see. I've also heard, originally we were supposed to get multiple versions of the Hurricane engine, right? There was going to be we have what they call, if you go through the Mopar catalog, they have the Cat 1, which is the standard output. They have the Cat 3, which is the high output. We were supposed to get up to a Cat X, which was a 1500 horsepower version. But the problem is they kept blowing up that. So I doubt we're going to get a Cat X. But they were also working on a 700 plus horsepower version of the Hurricane engine. And again, they were having issues with it. And with how much, with how much boost they're putting into these engines and stuff, they would ultimately have to ditch the aluminum design and go to a heavier iron block design to make them last. Why is it 3 liters? Increase the displacement of it? I don't know why it's exactly 3 liters. It could have to do with global, global regulations. A lot of it could be, like I said about China, they only allowed 3 liters of displacement. I don't know the whole reason behind that. I just don't. Hey, Melvin, how's it going? Have you tested the 0 to 60 on this? Are you talking about the Durango? Durango's, it's all right. It's only got 360 horsepower, but it's 0 to 60 isn't that bad. It's like in the high, it depends on what's in it. Usually it's like low fives. Like 5.2, 5.3. It's a big vehicle. So, I don't know. Like I said, this next year is going to be very interesting. Antonio Filosa's tomorrow, if you guys are up at 8 a.m., I know tomorrow's September 11th. I usually watch all the specials and stuff, and it was a huge changing day. And today was terrible, too, with Charlie Kirk getting killed and stuff. But if you're up at 8 a.m., I will have I will be on a conference call, and I'll be live streaming with Antonio Filosa. So I will be streaming that at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I got a lot of stuff. I got to get home, and I got to work on some articles for tomorrow. My night's just begun. I've been working all day, and I got to work late tonight. So anyways, thanks, guys, for joining me. And make sure to, hit like, subscribe, and make sure tomorrow morning, if you want to see that chat with Antonio Filosa, I'll be up at 8 a.m. I'll be on doing the live stream with that. So stay tuned for that, okay? Other than that, you guys have a good night, and I will see you later. Bye.